On today's episode of the Bhangra Podcast, we're doing a team profile on Bhangra All-Star Sydney. We're sitting down with Amitoj and Tanu. Stay tuned. Welcome to today's episode of the Bhangra Podcast. I'm your host, Sahab Grover. Today I'm sitting down with Bhangra All-Star Sydney. I'm sitting down with Amitoj and Tanu. Guys, please introduce yourselves.
So I guess I started Bhangra when I was about 5 or 6 years old, I would say. So much similar to a lot of the boys in our team, a lot of us, started at family functions, Vaisakhi Melas, Diwali functions, where our parents or our family friends would, get us together and say, all right, you're going to do a Bhangra performance on the stage with little to no experience. So yeah, I guess from there it was just, jumping on stage with a lot of, family friends, doing various functions across the years. And then I started doing more competitive Bhangra once I finished high school. That's when I joined bass. This is around probably end of 2013, start of 2014. So it's been about 6-7 years now with bass, and I've been really enjoyed my time with it so far. So yeah, that's I guess how long I've been doing Bhangra. And outside of Bhangra, my profession, I'm a physiotherapist, and currently I'm working in research in biomechanics and physiotherapy. And yeah, that's, I guess,
awesome.
Spiel about me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Tanu, what about yourself?
Similar story with Amitoj. We started off at those local Vaisakhi Diwali kind of functions, just a bunch of family friends getting together, organizing a function. And we didn't know better as kids, right? It would just be parents. All right, you guys are going to do a performance, put us on stage. And yeah, that's basically where we sort of started getting that stage experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then that sort of developed. We had, Amitoj came in later, but yeah, that's basically how we all sort of started, right? Just at local kind of functions. And then, over time, just got a bit more serious, I think, especially looking at the US circuit, the Canadian circuit.
Definitely. Yeah,
that's where we're like, we want to, perform competitively as well.
Yeah,
but
there's actually a platform, for people to compete seriously and actually, I guess, compete at a very high level where they can really showcase, what their actual skills are, and not just do it for fun.
Yeah. So like when we started, there was no competitions, right? There was no trophy, prize money, or, bragging rights, none of that. It was just
pat on the back and kind of an expectation that you have to do
Yeah.
it because your parents said so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the uncle organizing is mates with your dad. That's it.
So you guys are talking about, because that's like a lot of it. I know a lot of U.S. teams like back in the early 2000s started like that. So was there, when you're talking about how like the influence the U.S. circuit had on you, you were seeing like these teams actually taking Bhangra competitively. Were there any teams at that time that stood out to you that like had a big impact that made you have that change from being just like, okay, we're doing this at Uncle G's event and he's gonna, give us a nice pat on the back and our parents are forcing us to do that. That changed from there to actual competitive Bhangra. Was there a team that had an influence on you?
Yeah, this is a funny story, and yeah, I'll answer what you just asked as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we have so a lot of people here that in Sydney, also I think in Melbourne, Perth as well, that came in the 90s, right? A lot of them studied at the Punjab Agricultural University, PAU.
Yeah.
Down now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's an uncle, Jatinder Patel. He used to be the captain of the Bhangra team in his day at PAU, right? So he basically, I started learning sort of from him, right? And a lot of the OG people in the team sort of started learning under him, and we sort of got, it sort of started getting bigger. We had this Gurbir, so Alex Marby, that guy, and yeah, he sort of joined, and he started making all these crazy moves we've never seen before. And we're like, oh damn, this guy's good. And we see you've been there for a while, someone new comes along, and our coach is like really impressed with this guy. And turns out he was just copying moves from LBC. we didn't know.
So LBC, just for people who are new, that's Lethal Bhangra crew, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like back in the day. This is back in the day, yeah.
Like 2009? Yeah, that kind of era.
Ages ago.
Yeah, and that's so I'm like, just getting impressed for no reason. This guy's just copying moves. And I think so. I finished my high school in 2010, and then we sort of started getting, I think that's when we actually formed a team. We came up with the name. Before that, I remember doing the performance. We're standing side stage, and they're like, "Oh, so what do we announce you as?" Right? And it was like, "Oh shit, we don't have a name." I just made something up on the spot. But yeah, after that, we came up with bass and everything. And I remember being really sort of inspired by BK, Bhangra Nights. And
Sure.
yeah, so if you watch, I don't know, is Unity on YouTube?
I think it is.
Yeah, it's not.
It should be on there. I think it is public. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a competition, but you can see us wearing black kurte, and that was sort of, we're gonna do what BK did, and so yeah, right. Like I think that's how maybe a lot of teams start as well. Like we didn't have all that competitions and everything.
Yeah, I think it really did come around when YouTube started becoming a much more popular platform, and when people really started to upload their videos, and there's a lot more professional Bhangra videos, not just someone's Chacha recording GTV videos and other professional videographers and competitions. When
even like Bhangra Team Forum.
When BTS started blowing up as well.
So it's like just accounts there, like what was a newbie or something?
Yeah,
you just join in. Yeah, so yeah, that's basically and then Nachidi Juani,
SGPD, like the Elite 8 competitions, I guess, in the early
SGPD
2010s, like that rivalry as well. Like I guess seeing those teams like try to one up each other constantly.
It's so interesting that you actually say that, because when we Sid Pandit or Gursimran G Sims, he will talk about that like the influence that rivalry SGPD NJ had on Fertile and like FCB as teams. And it's actually so interesting to hear that all the way in Australia, before anyone even in the States knew about you, that impact was already happening. And thank you to her, Joel, for doing all that service, and save it to the community for putting all those videos up on YouTube. But so it's actually interesting to see that the same thing that influenced us as a team, it wasn't recently, it wasn't any SPD recently. It's interesting to hear that it's something way hearing Lethal Bhangra Crew, honestly, from someone from Australia, I would never expect that. I never really thought that. That's so long ago, right? So that's really awesome. So it's kind of this kind of allure of competing in the States was always there, right? What was your guys' first comp, right?
Yeah, just about that.
Yeah.
So there's one of the OGs, Sunny Dillon. I remember him saying, because we're in sort of the same grade, we did the same degree at university and everything.
Yeah, a lot of these OGs from our team, they all, I think a lot of the boys in our team, we all grew up together anyway.
We're like family friends.
Yeah, and I guess to build on the PAU part that Donna mentioned as well, pretty much all of our dads, dad, moms and so on, were class fellows or knew each other from back, in Ludhiana and from India as well. So, everyone migrated out here in the 90s. We're all first generation Australians. So Vasey, it just so happens to be that our parents know each other. They used to, go to uni, and then, we become family friends as a result of that. So it's kind of we grew up with each other, and, a lot of us went to high school together. We went to the same, schools. We all live in the same area as well. So, another 5 minutes away from me. So
yeah. And I remember Sunny mentioning, he's like, oh yeah, one day we want to go watch Bruin, not perform, just watch Bruin, right? Go to America to watch Bruin. And I was like, that's gonna happen. We'll see, right? And and then so there was and we had no competitions there, right? The first proper, I think, competition we performed in, we have SICK games that happen in Australia and New Zealand. And that year, 2012, it was in Sydney. And with the SICK games, they had a Bhangra competition as well, with all the other sports and everything. There was a Bhangra competition, and there was only 4 teams. Yeah, he was in the audience. I was on stage.
Yeah,
and
I was watching from just behind the judges as well.
Yeah. And we have a old academy here, Roop Jabdi. Yeah, they're really they teach a lot of kids, and they're very good. And so and those guys were older than us, right? I'm like, oh yeah, they're gonna come first, and we're gonna go in for second. And our main sort of rivalry was with Ministry of Bhangra Sydney mob. And
what year was this comp? What year was this?
2012.
This 2012? Okay.
Yeah. I think it was called Nachida Punjab.
Nachida Punjab.
Yeah. And we performed. not a very good performance, right? But we ended up coming first, and we're like, oh, nice. And after that, there was no more competitions in 2012. We did nothing in 2013, and in 2014 September, that's where we performed at the second Melbourne competition that happened, Bhangra Down Under.
And that was the first year that Ajot Bari, when he came down.
So
that's when GTV came down to Australia to like, I guess,
first time,
help promote the scene and like try to, I guess, like, give it that, static shock to like try to like, make it,
and
bring it to like the limelight, I guess.
Yeah, it was really helpful because our invite to WBBC came after that.
Yeah.
And
it's like as a result of a video, or I guess like
I don't know
like
what it was.
A video, or I guess like Ajot like putting a good word in for us.
I remember actually watching that video. I didn't even know there was an Australian circuit. Like I had no clue that there were Australian Bhangra teams. Honestly, I was just like I had absolutely no clue back in 2014. This was my first or second year of dancing, so I was all about OGTV videos dropping, and I remember seeing that, and I saw bass, and I was like, dude, this team's good. Like I remember watching them, I was like, this team's up and coming, right? Like this is like going to be the next big thing. I actually remember that. So it was kind of like that was a huge impact. Her Joel coming down there. Did you guys win? You guys won Bhangra Down Under, right? 2014.
No, we came second. We came second.
Came second? Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, I remember there being like a lot of excitement. That was the first time there was going to be a mixer. So like, ooh, mixer.
A mixer. Then you guys realize like, oh god, there's another mixer that we have to go to sometimes. Because that's how we become. We're like, like Sims and I will go to a mixer and we'll just be like, okay, we'll just like sit there, get the food, and we're like, okay, can we just get over with this so we can go to practice? Yeah. But I can imagine your first mixer, you guys are probably like, oh shit, like this is the hot new thing, right?
Yeah. The first time it was like
we're the first team there, right?
Yeah. It was like, oh, we have to get there on time, boys. Like we can't be late, we got to make sure that everyone participate in all the games. Let's be super, super into it. And then like, I mean, nowadays, like, we're just much the same as you guys, where it's like, all right, like, looking at our watches, like, all right, come on, like, wrap it up.
You're just like, decide the lineup and let's go.
Like, we got practice after this. You need to get our sleep in.
You guys I used to think that the games used to pick the show order. Like I used to really believe that when I first started, I was like, oh, the games are going to like, oh, we got to really participate in these games because, the show order is going to be dependent on that. Not realizing like nothing.
I think we've been to a couple of comps where like it's had like the games have had some sort of influence. But that's like really early on.
I can't remember.
Maybe like one or two comps.
Yeah, that was like they stopped doing that like 2015, 2014. They realized like we probably shouldn't be doing that. But
yeah.
But yeah, so it was,
I mean, it's good. It just should be random, right? Like
definitely.
Yeah, it should definitely be random.
Or down to luck, I guess.
And and even with like like nowadays with competitions, you have like a judges meeting before and after kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was still this whole scene was sort of still growing, right? And no one really had that concept of who the judges are. You meet the judges. Afterwards.
There's a very gray area in terms of like who are we being judged by? What's their experience? Like I think for our first one, like the first video, we still don't know who. Even like our first couple comps, it was like very gray area for us because I guess like going in as novices, we didn't really know what questions to ask or like what buttons to push and like how much say teams actually do have when it comes to competitions. Like hey, we want to find out what the exact rubric is, who are the judges.
Yeah, there was we just didn't have that concept.
Yeah, it wasn't really in our mind. It was just, hey, we have to make a good set. We have to do, good Bhangra. And, if it's good, then hopefully we'll win. If not, then, so be it.
Yeah. And, after that, we got a message from one of the...
From Faizan.
Faizan, right?
I remember we thought it was a troll email.
Yes.
Okay, sure. Someone's trying to mess with us. Someone saw some BTF and they're trying to mess with us. Yeah.
No, what happened was, so he messaged us, right? And
it's on Facebook, I think.
I got a call from I think Alex or I don't know. I got a call, right? Like, so this is what happened. I'm like, yeah, it's probably a troll. And like the day after, I don't know, for some reason, like his Facebook was deactivated or something. And I'm like, oh yeah, someone just made a fake account, mess with us, right?
But I remember like Alex and I, we like sat down one day, like after practice, we did like a deep dive on like Facebook, LinkedIn.
Yeah, but like, is this guy legit?
Like, does he exist or not?
And and we met up at, like, you guys have Burger King, we have Hungry Jack's. We all sort of met up there, like, all right, boys, what are we going to do?
Yeah, first let's get food, then let's discuss.
Yeah. And then, so WBBC ended up happening. And, I mean, like, going into it, we didn't have any, we knew we're probably not at that caliber, to be very honest. But we took the opportunity because we're like, you know what?
It's the first Australian team to go overseas.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, you can't, like, for us, even like now, like, we especially need something that kind of puts us in our, like, puts us really outside our comfort zone. Like, puts a lot of, pressure and high stakes on us. Because I guess that then it really pushes us to, I guess, like, really practice, really train hard, and I guess, like, make Bhangra a really top priority. But yeah, like, I remember, like, back then it was like, we were matched up against Nashi Johnny Warriors. I remember they were when the lineup was initially announced. So we were really like, we got nothing to lose. So we're gonna go as hard as we can, but we know that the odds are massively against us.
Yeah, and I think after that, I don't know, they didn't end up performing. I don't know what happened, but we ended up matched up against FCB, and they were a top team back then, still are, and so we went there. We did what we could.
When you guys were like, okay, going from the US, right, going all the way to New York, that probably cost a shit ton of money.
Oh, definitely. Like,
was there anybody who was how much was it?
Probably a few grand per person, I think.
I mean,
maybe like $2,000 or something like that.
You put flights in, hotels, that's
everything,
eating, all that kind of stuff, and then boys gonna shop anyway, I guess.
Oh, we went crazy.
Yeah.
We went crazy.
Yeah.
The stores can't be that different. The stores can't be that different.
The stores not different, but like, you guys, like, because you guys have such a much more larger population, your stuff is way cheaper than it is here.
I don't know, because
I mean, like, our dollar was really good at the time, so it was like, hey, like, we're traveling, like, let's just spend money, man.
We went to Vegas after, and we didn't do what you do in Vegas. We just did shopping.
Yeah. I mean, I guess half our team was under 21 as well.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah, I was under 21 then as well. I was like, oh boys, let's go here. No, we can't. Sorry, half the guys are underage. Let's go here. No, we don't want to leave the boys out.
And we spent a whole day at the Citadel? I don't know what it is.
Outlet malls or some shit.
Yeah, one of those, right? And
Where'd you spend all day?
At the shopping center, like that.
The mall. The mall. Okay.
We call it shopping center.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, WBBC happened. We got good feedback from the judges.
Yeah, and I think to add on to that, we also, like, a lot of the teams were really friendly with us there, especially like JBD as well.
JBD,
yeah, like we really hit it off with them, especially, I guess it's kind of that that UK Aussie, like, that's similarity, I guess, like that.
Yeah.
That, I don't know, brotherhood type kind of like.
They came first, I think.
They came first that year, yeah. So I guess, like, like, we asked them so many questions. Like, we met them again, like in New York City, like after the competition. Like, I think we chilled with them like 2-3 nights in a row after the comp. But like, I remember we asked them a lot of questions. They were very helpful in terms of like, yo, this is like, what we do when we practice. This is, how many run-throughs we do. This is how we structure our sets. This is like the sort of approach we take towards, preparing for a competition. So I guess, like, all the questions that, we really didn't know to ask up until we got our feedback from WBC, we really, started asking the teams, and everyone was really helpful. I think that was a really big part of
basically, we went to learn, right? We came back, we implemented it, and I think anyone who watches the performance at WBBC and then BDU 15, there's a clear difference, right?
Yeah, 6 months later, it was a massive difference.
So that's probably the turning point for us.
And,
and then BDU 15 happened. After that, we got the Bruin invite, I think.
I think about a month after BDU, we had BDU 15. We had an invite to Bruin Bhangra, and we were pretty set on, like, hey, this is like, an opportunity that a lot of the boys in our team thought, we wouldn't get. Like, one day, like, the dream used to be like, oh, one day we'll go to the States on holiday and watch a competition and see these teams. And then next thing you know, like, we're going to be stacked up against like the best teams on the planet. So, and I think we had the second Harbour City Bhangra happening here in Sydney. So our local home competition. So that was kind of like, a competition, like, that would have, that I guess, if we performed well, and it would have set us really well for Bruin. So, we really, at that time it was, hey, we need to go, make Bhangra our top priority. We need to, do our best, because, this is our second time that we're going to go overseas. It was also the first time our team was transitioning to going 16 as well. So before that, we only competed as like a 12-man team.
Yeah.
So it was our first time we were ever doing 16 as well. We had 4 new dancers, like fresh dancers as well, that we had to, get to the same level. So it was really like we learned as we went along, and a lot of people did help us along the way in terms of giving us good feedback and advice. So we definitely wouldn't be there if people weren't as kind and friendly.
Yeah. And just one more thing, our parents,
definitely,
the support's been phenomenal throughout, right? Like from when we were young, we didn't know what we're doing, like probably primary school, high school, right? Throughout the years, they came to America with us at WBBC. They came to America with us at BDU, organized the food, energy drinks. We're going to go out. Was near Skid Row or something in LA. It's not a very good area.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh yeah, we're going to the car park to practice, and they're just like,
yeah, no. They're like, no, you're gonna go here. Yeah, I think like,
and they booked that little ballroom thing for us. I don't know how much it costs, but they were like, done, go.
Yeah, like a convention. Like our parents, I definitely think, like, without a doubt, every single person in base like knows that the backbone of our team is our parents.
100%.
Like they are as much a part of the team for us as like any of our dancers or like our senior members might be. So like, as Daniel said, like, our parents, they're also like our crowd. Like when we have practices and when we get closer to competition and we do like viewings and run throughs, our parents come to like every practice. They watch us, they grill us, they roast us hard as well.
They make a roster, like who's going to bring fruit, drinks, stuff like that.
So parents like,
it's like Bhangra is a family affair. Bhangra is a family affair.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Because our parents are they're just as much invested as we are. Like they really want us to like, perform really well. They come down to the competitions, they cook us breakfast, they make sure we're like, we're well fed, that we sleep well, that, if we need meds or anything, that they're there to do that stuff during comp weekend.
Yeah, just everything in support basically.
Yeah. So
that's something worth mentioning.
Yeah. We wouldn't be at this, where we are right now if it wasn't for them.
Yeah.
That's amazing to hear. Honestly, I didn't know that. I didn't like. Usually for us, it's a battle. When we go into, like, a lot of people get exposed to Bhangra in college. It's kind of a battle. Like, hey, I'm going to be doing Bhangra in college. The parents usually will fight it back and say, oh, you're not focusing on school. You're not focusing on that. So to hear that's more of a family affair.
Yeah, I mean, we got
pretty
that
awesome
as well, right?
Oh, okay. So you still got that side of it. You still got that side of it.
We definitely cop a lot of it. Like, I think every team goes through it, and individuals go through it. Like every competition prep, it's like you hit a certain turning point where it's, hey, you're spending like 5-6 days a week like outside of home. Like you're coming home from work or uni, and then you're just changing clothes, going out. You're not seeing us. We haven't seen you in 3 months really. Like, aaj to baad, like, tera hor Bhangra nahi hai, like, Bhangra khatam, you're going to focus on...
That's it. Last comp. That's it. Last comp and retire. Last comp retire.
So, like, I think, everyone that's, in our team that's still competing, like, even myself, it's like, we're still on that, notion with our friends, like, this is my last comp, But, like, deep down, we know it's like, no, we can, like, keep pushing, like, the boundary.
I mean, deep down, they know as well.
Yeah. They're gonna try to say. They're gonna try to say. Like, okay, you don't have any more comps, and you'll say, yeah, this is it, I'm done. And then next comp opportunity comes up, and that literally happens. I mean, I see it with people like in med school still, that are like, they're like, yeah, I'm done, man, I'm retired. I mean, how many retirements can people go through, right? Like, I've seen like dancers retire like 2-3 times.
And I remember in 2015, I think, like I just finished uni, I was finding work. So basically I had nothing else to do. And this was before BDU 15. I remember being at Gobind Kangura. He was a captain.
At the time,
And like he used to do like making choreo and stuff like that. And I just used to be there at his house till like 3 a.m.
Yeah, same. I was in second year uni then, but like I think when we started making the BDU set, like we had university break then. So I went to break about like a month and a half. So it was, pretty much, wake up late every day. All right, breakfast, copy, go to Gorbin's house. All right, let's just put songs on. Let's just make choreo.
Yeah, it's not like we did choreo the whole time. It was a lot of times just talking.
Oh, so much. And now we think back on it, it's like, it was probably very unproductive.
Yeah.
But
like playing cricket on his driveway or something.
yeah.
Dumb stuff. Yeah.
One of the things you guys are like saying, like, okay, you wanted to go and compete in the States, right? Or you wanted to go and just watch a competition in the state, and then you end up competing in the States. And one thing that I see between like the Australian circuit and the American circuit is there's not too many comps in Australia. Like you mentioned two, right? There's Bhangra Down Under, and then there's one more, I forgot the name of it.
Harbour City.
Harbour City, right? So there's
Sydney.
so that's in Sydney, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to I want like people here, what are those differences between the Australian circuit and the American circuit? You've experienced both, right? I kind of want to hear that, and I want to hear like what are some of the similarities, differences, and what are things that like the North American circuit would probably pick up from Australia, or things that Australia could pick up from North America.
I guess probably off the bat, the biggest difference between our two circuits is, I guess, the raw number of people and like that can compete. So I guess, a lot of, we don't have as large of a Punjabi or like even just a general, like, Southeast Asian population as compared to the States. So like, I mean, Australia's population is only like, 24 million?
Yeah.
So that's, like 5-6 times less than the States.
Yeah.
So, and then plus
more.
more than that. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. But, like we don't have as many, people from, I guess, like that background. So, I guess, that's like a big thing when it comes to like not being like a huge number of teams as well.
Yeah. I think the other reason is, so in America, I think a lot of the cities are like close, right?
To each other.
Yeah. So here it's Sydney, 1,000 kilometers, Brisbane, you go 1,000 kilometers down, it's Melbourne. Perth is like 3-hour flight.
Yeah. Perth is essentially like Cali to New York. Like that's the difference, like how far it is.
Yeah, roughly, right? So we're sort of more spread out. And over here, people do go to university. So you guys call it college, right?
College, yeah.
But we don't have people staying at universities.
Yeah.
So like living there, right? So there's no college teams kind of circuit.
We don't have a collegiate circuit here.
Yeah.
So because everyone, like, I mean, pretty much everyone, still lives at home, like, during their 20s and so on when we go to university, because university is only like, an hour bus ride or like, 40-minute drive to the city. And like all the major universities in Sydney, they're all like in like, at downtown. They're all, in the same, vicinity of each other. So we might have like 5-6, unis like, downtown here in Sydney, but, everyone that lives here in Sydney goes to those universities. So it's not, it's your daily commute, like essentially going to work. No one really, goes and lives on campus. So it's not really, I guess, like how in the American circuit, many college teams, they have people living on, on campus. So, one of the things they can do in their free time is do Bhangra as well.
Yeah.
But I guess, for us, like, a lot of people here during their 20s, they work part-time. Some people work full-time and do university. So it's like more like a normal type of life rather than like, living on campus. So doing Bhangra is definitely much more harder here when it comes to like that, work life, studying, social life, sort of balance. So that does like prevent a lot of people from doing it, I guess, and getting very committed.
I think the number of teams, just like there's so many different cities, and especially in America, right? And over here, there's only a few sort of big cities. And like in Sydney, we have a lot of teams, but it's still nowhere near like, number. And if they're in Sydney, they're just going to perform in Sydney or Melbourne, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not going to start up a new competition.
Yeah, and people like people tend to just join the stronger teams are the ones that have been doing well recently, or like I guess like where the wave is, like rather than trying to start something from scratch on their own. It's also I'm going to join this academy. They have a good repertoire, good history. People talk really well about them, I guess. So you don't really tend to see like a new team like popping up here and there, like how you might see like every year there's like a couple of new teams in the States, or new teams or new generations of dancers. Here it's there's like a couple of set teams and people, I mean, currently are so far really
it's a bit slow. It's the whole process, the churning of new people, old people, it's a bit slower.
Because when people, I guess as Thanu said, people live much more closer to each other. As I at the start, like as I said, Thanu lives 5 minutes away from me. Like in our team, like most of our boys live like 10 minutes apart, right? So it's like, okay, these guys are from my area, or we're in the same city. It's only like half an hour, 40-minute drive at most if you live on the other side of the city. But even then, it's like, it's much more difficult to start a new team when you're in here. when there's like already a couple established ones and you're very close to each other.
So other than y'all, right, you guys have, okay, there's base. I know there's Mob Sydney. What are the other big teams right now in Australia?
I'd probably definitely say Ranjay from Melbourne. So they're quite a big team in terms of, and then they also have their sister team, Shednia Bhangra. So that's, I guess, like their girls team.
Okay.
As part of like, their whole academy type of.
It's like how we have Queens.
How we have base Queens. They have like, their Ranjay Shednia and here in, obviously we mentioned Ruru Punjabi.
Ruru Punjabi,
yeah. So they're quite a big academy.
Yeah, and they have the organized functions and everything.
Like showcases and stuff.
Yeah, showcases. But I think they're not in the competitive side of it yet. Like
more the academy phase. Are they more in the academy phase where they're trying to?
Their focus is I think their focus is more on teaching rather than
competing.
So like I think they have performed at like maybe one or two, but
it's been a few years since they've performed. Yeah.
Generally speaking, their focus is more on just teaching.
Sure. Are you guys right now operating out of an academy, or is it more like a team? So you guys have Queens, you have base, right? Is it more that it's more of like a academy system where you'll have younger kids come in, join, go through the system of being an academy, or is it more just, hey, come try out for base or try out for Queens? What kind of system are you guys running right now?
I'd say it's probably it's a bit of both, really. Like, I mean, initially, obvious, like when we when I first joined, I guess, like, or I mean, when the OGs like Thunder made the team, like it was more of a tryout process / if you're mates with them, then you might have a chance of making the team, that sort of stuff. But it was really like, oh, if you're keen to do Bhangra, Ajo, come in, like, we'll try to teach you as much as we can. And hopefully we can get you to the competitive level. But we're trying to, like, we've in the early stages of setting up our academy. So we do have like, classes such as like juniors classes, and I guess like intermediates, fundamentals classes, advanced classes, and so on. But it's not like, we don't like own our own studio. We don't have like our own studio, that sort of stuff. We don't have like ages 6 to 8, 8 to 10, 10 to 12 sort of like classes. It's
not that big.
It's in its infancy right now. So I guess like we do have like the two, like the adults, the seniors teams, like the base boys and the base queens. But anyone that like I guess really wants to join like base, they usually start off in like those classes, the fundamentals and like the early academy classes, and then we try to fast track them as quick as possible to get them to compete within reason.
Sorry, I think we just talked about this maybe 2 minutes ago. The other big teams, I think we forgot to mention WCB.
Yes,
girls team,
West Coast Bhangra.
Yeah, so they're still active. They're they're very good as well.
There's Bhangra Rules as well from Perth.
Yeah. And Hire boys from New Zealand.
From New Zealand, yeah.
There's someone to look out for as well.
Yeah. Oh, New Zealand.
New Zealand, yeah.
So New Zealand, they actually do have I think 1 or 2 local comps that happen each year as well. So they're starting to really I guess
they're coming up.
They're coming up and they're growing their scene right now. So it's kind of like our scene maybe like 6 or so years ago. It's much similar. Like that's the same process that's starting up in New Zealand right now.
I think SWAT from Singapore,
Singapore, they tend to come down here quite often.
Is it? Yeah, because that's the closest competition for them, right? I mean, other than coming all the way to the States. I know they came to the States for one comp. I think it was Bhangra Fever.
Yes.
Yeah. So they came for that. I mean, talking about Bhangra Fever, I want to talk about that because you guys came here, competed 2 comps. Which is pretty awesome, right? Yeah. So that must have been an adventure. I mean, coming down here, coming to get 2 comps. Did you obviously stayed here for like a month, pretty much, in the States?
I stayed for a month, but I think so. I remember when I originally pitched the plan to the boys, it was like, nah, okay, look, maybe 1 comp, but 2 is like, that you're maybe you're a bit crazy if you're thinking 2 comps, but like somehow it just like lined up. Like we wanted to try to like we're like in the mindset that hey, we've been preparing this set for some time. If we can, like this is like peak American Bhangra circuit season. Like hopefully there's another comp like a week after FIBA. And so it just so happened that championships of Bhangra was happening the weekend after. So like, okay, great, cool, we can actually do both comps. So pretty much I think about 3-4 days before Bhangra FIBA, we all flew out. So we went from Sydney to Vancouver to Toronto, and then everyone like stayed overnight in Toronto, and then the next day we took a bus down across the border to Buffalo, and did the competition. Then we went back across the border to Toronto, spent a week in Toronto, did some sightseeing here and there, but we continued to practice every day. And then I think about 2 days before champs, we flew down to North Carolina and competed there. And then after we finished that competition, most of our boys just went their separate ways. People, went to visit family. Others went, just sightseeing here and there, different cities across the States. I traveled with my parents for like about a month thereafter. So a lot of our parents did come along with us. So that's pretty much what we did in terms of like the process. We try to make it like a good, worthwhile trip every time we do come overseas. So Bhangra is like the main focus, and it's like the agenda. And like, any fun and games we can have, like, after the competition, that's just a bonus.
So you guys did Fever and Champs, right? Both those comps are really different, rubric wise, judging wise. So what was that experience of doing Fever and then going to a competition like Champs? What was that experience? Feeling that like difference between those two comps? I think
I'm not going to lie, it was a bit tough to manage like the difference between the two competitions, especially when it came to set making, because, as you mentioned, like the rubrics are very different between the two of them. Champs, I guess it was only the first year, so it's very hard to get a gauge of like, exactly like, is it more modern competition? Is it more folk? Or is it somewhere in between? I guess like from the rubric and what they were after was kind of in between the two of them, where like folk elements are really appreciated, but you have to be creative and try to stand out as well. Whereas obviously Bhangra Fever recently, I guess, is like becoming more and more, appreciative of like, folk Bhangra. And if you can do, if the backbone of your Bhangra has to be, dancing traditionally as well. Obviously, wow moments, your choreo should be like, I guess, like your gimmick, if that makes sense, rather than like, fireworks, patake, that sort of stuff going off stage. So I guess like it was a bit tough. Like we did go through a lot of changes, even in like the last month. I think there was a stage where like we were about maybe 5-6 weeks out, where it was like almost every week there was like 2 segments changing in our set. Like, all right, no, this segment's not working, pull it out, change the song, do the choreo, do the formations again from scratch. So it was really like we tried our best to make sure that we had a set that was that catered to both Bhangra Fever and Champs. Obviously we did change some stuff after Bhangra Fever because we got feedback and so on and so forth, and we had to modify it a bit so that it suited Champs more. But I guess we tried to make sure that, the foundation of the set, majority of it, would cater to both of them. So it required minimal changes.
And I think also trying to keep what we do as base, or trying to also keep that element. So that's probably something that sort of, even if it's different competition, sort of keeps you grounded. Like, this is what we do, right?
Is our personality coming through the set or not? Like, can people tell, hey, is this a base Bhangra set, or is this just like a generic cookie cutter routine that, if I didn't show you the name and the title in the video, you wouldn't, you wouldn't be able to guess who it was. So that was very important to us, especially in like the, the later end game stages of the routine, like trying to make sure that, it stayed true to us. Cause, we did have like, especially going to the competition, a lot of expectations coming from people where it's like, hey, we're expecting this to be better than Bruin, or hey, you got to make sure that you guys stand out as much as you did at Bruin. Like the one thing we keep getting from everyone that we meet is Bruin. Like, I mean, I guess like now we've done like Fever and Champs, like the people that's seen those videos, they like those as well. But I think Bruin is the one that people always keep referring back to. That this is like that's you guys. Like we want to see that again.
So when you came off, I want to talk about Bruin. You both danced there, right? At Bruin?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you came off that stage at Bruin and you were ready for those placings to be announced, what were you expecting?
Tanu might be, I think Tanu was older than, right? So like he probably, like Tanu was older than me. So.
I know this is a tough question because I'll be honest with you. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I thought you guys were gonna get first. Like I thought there was a potential for you guys to get first there. But
see, like I think the thing was, right, we didn't know that people expected that everyone else, like people that a lot of people that came and spoke up, spoke to us after the competition, or that even people still to this day that say like, yo, we thought you should have come such and such at this competition, or you should have been this at Bruin. Like I think as soon as we finished performing, we were just like, right? Like we were like, super happy and like, I guess like, it was like, yo, I can do another one. Like, let's do an encore. Like,
so what happened that day was, the order got decided and I think we were last. We were last, right?
Yeah, we performed last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're like, it's a like we maybe third last, second last. Like that's ideal for us. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
but
we knew it was a big, like, it's not as much of a thing here in Australian circuit where it's like, you know, the show order is not as, you know, important, but we knew when we got, like, you know, when the order was decided for, bass is going to be performing last, they're the last team to go up at Bruin, like that was a massive thing because we knew in the American circuit that a lot of people, you know, I guess like it's a general consensus that, hey, if you can perform last and you are, you know, you have a strong performance, you have a good chance at, you know, having that last impression on the judge's mind.
That sort of thing,
You know, maybe possibly outdoing other teams because it's the last team to perform, it's the last impression. So
and on the day, like we always do this, unless the management stops us, right? We'll get a toll. I think everyone does it, right? You're just playing the toll, everything, just hyping it up.
Yeah, for us, it's like, we really like try to get in the zone, and it's more just having like
fun, right? And
the martial backstage.
Just like a good time. It's been crazy, right? And so we did all that, and then we're like, all right, we still haven't done tech time.
That was a very long day because our tech time was meant to be at, I think, midday.
Yeah.
And we got there like, I think, you know,
in the morning.
We got there at 10.
Yeah.
And we were like, all right, you know, we'll go in, we'll stretch, you know, we'll put jadre on, that kind of stuff. Like we'll get ready, you know, visualize and so on.
We did all of that, and then we got hyped up, and then we sort of cooled down again.
Yeah.
Some of us went to sleep.
Yeah. I think our tech time was actually at like 5-6 p.m. Yeah.
You guys had tech time at 5-6 p.m.
So people were ready to come.
People were coming
into the auditorium as we had tech time.
Yeah.
One of the teams that year that were competing against us, they had, I guess, like their own special rigging or their own, like, you know, special stuff coming.
Yeah, we know what team. We know what team we're talking about here. We know what we're talking about. Yeah.
That delayed the tech time process by a lot. So I mean, like we were told by, like, you know, we were expecting, like, you know, everyone's like, hey, yo, Bruin's an awesome competition for like tech times. Like you'll go in, you do your tech time at midday, you go back to the hotel, sleep for a couple hours, come back in the afternoon. You know, and so then
we were going to do tech time. Ready. We're going to get back to the hotel, grab all the other stuff, and then come. But it just ended up happening that because tech time was so late,
we just stayed there.
We just stayed there, right?
Yeah, like some of our boys, like, you know, hadn't even showered or anything, or like, you know, so it's like
yo, I know that feeling, bro.
We'll do tech time, and then we'll go back and have breakfast and shower and properly get ready.
Yeah. Like it's just like you have like a plan for the day, but I guess that's part of competing, right? Like nothing ever works to.
Yeah, you got to be like mentally and, you know, like strong enough to like be able to deal with those situations on the fly, which I think, funnily enough, happens to us like every competition as well. Like we get worried if something doesn't go wrong in a competition, in like, you know, on a competition weekend. It's like, yo, that was too smooth. Like, are you sure something is wrong? We missed something for sure.
And coming to the placings, so we performed. I think I found out, or personally me, I found out later that people were were sort of the underdogs, right? Like we were just going there to put on a good show, right?
Yeah, for us it was just like, we got to go in. We knew we had a good set, but but in our mind it was like, all right, like, you know, just because we have a good set doesn't mean that we're going to win, right? Because it's Bruin, and I think at that point in time, like it was a lot on our team's mind that, hey, we're going to start a transition to try to become as focused as we can within the music category. So like when we knew
there was a lot of discussions around that, like, you know, while we were sort of preparing the set, we don't want to lose the essence of who we are, but we still need to cater for the
competition itself. Because Bruin, like in its nature, is you have to do gimmicks, you have to do crowd pleasing sort of like you know shenanigans here and there on stage. So there was definitely a lot of back and forth discussion in our team about it.
Coming to the placings,
right?
So there was the side stage, right? Everything sort of there, and some of us, I think Sunny's doing a bully, and it was all sort of there. I was very nervous, right?
I think in our mind it was really, hey, it's like, you know, it's we felt like, I think in the moment, like with hindsight, it was like, hey, it's probably like between us and FCB from like what we're gauging from other people and from the committee. From at least the people that we heard from, obviously afterwards, like, you know, and for us, it's like we like placings. Once you hear the placings, it's like, all right, like, you know, if you don't come first, child, whatever, right? Like, go have a look and see other people's performances.
Yeah, personally, I wasn't. I was expecting to place, right? I was like, we saw the reaction, right? Like you sort of realize, especially on Jagga, right? We
like
saw
the energy and the
reaction.
vibe, like you can tell, like, you know, how the audience reacts, and like,
You can sort of gauge from it, and also what people were saying after that.
And we saw other teams as sets, like so backstage that year they had a projector up, and they were streaming the performances live. So if we're performing last, we pretty much saw almost everyone's performance before us.
So, and so I was side stage, and so we got announced, and it was so I think first it was like, oh, Bhangra Empire third, and then it was like tied with Base third, right? I was like, wait, do we come second or do we come third? It was like, what's going on?
I think there was a lot of confusion, because it was like, wait, Bruin does tied placings? Wait, competitions do tied placings? Like,
and to be very honest, I'm like, you guys have like 20 judges. What's going on? No, not 20. How much was it?
It was a lot.
They usually have like 6 or 7.
Yeah, 6 or 7, right? I'm like,
it's a massive spreadsheet.
Surely there's some point where you can, you know,
deliberate and like, decide.
Yeah, like, fine, give us fourth, give Empire third.
Just make it definitive.
Or something, right? Like, I don't know that. I still don't know what happened.
Yeah, I think the only emotion I can really remember very vividly from that time was just being confused.
Like, I wasn't happy about placing. I was more confused about.
Like
you. And I remember Simran Tara. He's one of the boys.
One of our OGs.
And I looked at him, I'm like, wait, what's going on? He's like, wait, we're on stage. Just smile.
It's like that.
I'm like, wait, what's going on?
It's pretty good. Smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave. Like, just, you know.
I was like,
thank you, like, you know, just.
We came backstage again after all of that, and another one of our OGs, Gagan Birdi.
Yep.
Like, it was his last comp. You know, it's been a long journey. He's been there
throughout,
and he started like tearing up. You know, started crying, and there was people like hugging him and everything. And I remember looking at him like, why are you crying, bro? Like,
why?
We came third. What are you doing? Like, you should be pissed.
And that whole moment was just like, there was a lot of confusion. Like, it was just, it was more so just by the fact it's like, wait, like, people can tie at this competition? I didn't know that. And then I think like afterwards, then we started to hear a lot of the reactions. We saw like, you know, audience videos and so on, people coming up to us like, you know, in the hotel afterwards, backstage, like, yo, no, don't worry about placing. It's like, you guys really ripped it. Keep doing this stuff. Yo, honestly, I think you guys have something special there. And
to be honest, FCB, that performance, just in terms of dancing, they danced harder.
They danced harder.
No
they had
doubt.
less breaks.
So for that, like second place. Who was first?
DRP.
DRP.
They I think
for Bruin, I think they deserved first. Like what they did. You know, once you've like watched the performances properly and everything,
then it's like,
all right, it's fine.
I don't think anyone was really like, without a doubt in my mind, no one in our team was angry or like really like, you know, really pissed off at the placings. It was just like, oh, like, okay, it's just confusion because you know, like they tied us, so can we just know like
And I went to
why we tied?
I guess Gorbin was captain then, and so Gorbin and I, we went to the judges meeting after, and I forget his name. I forgot all the names. AEG.
ASG.
He was from AEG.
Ankush.
Ankush.
Yeah, Ankush.
Yeah. Sorry, Ankush, if you're watching, but I remember him saying, like, you guys have come a long way from 2 years ago, and I was like, 2 years ago? It's like, at WBBC. I'm like, no, that was 1 year.
Yeah.
From WBBC
to Bruin
was 1 year, and he's like, I didn't realize that. You know, like the progress seemed like it's 2 years.
It's over more. Yeah, and I think like what really, I guess,
a compliment, I guess.
Yeah, like, and I think like a lot of people came, like a lot of senior members from other teams. Like I remember Sid came up to us as well, and he even said it to us like, you know, online afterwards. He's like, you know, you guys have like come further than any other team has, like in a space of 1 year. Like, you know, I haven't seen anyone improve that much or, you know, really take on feedback as much as you guys have. And like, it was a massive turnaround compared to WBC. So I think like that just, you know, pushed us even further to say, hey, like, you know, people can see that, you know, we're progressing really quickly and really fast. So we want to stay on this track. And
it's good to get that appreciation, especially from like those top tier teams.
Especially like,
and Sid, you know, he's basically one of the, I don't know if he's a founding member, but he's one of the main sort of members.
Like from
FCB, right?
So like, you know, appreciation and I guess like, you know, not really accolades, but you know, as Donna said, appreciation and like recognition for like, hey, you guys are doing well. From people that, you know, have, you know, been OGs in the game or, you know, guys that, you know, have been dancing longer than you and have won like such prestigious competitions. Like that definitely does mean a lot to us as well, and we don't take that stuff lightly. So but it's very reassuring to know to hear that, because then it tells you that, you know, I guess you are on the right path and you're, you know, doing something right.
And yeah, I just remember like just a funny story, like how you just, you know, how you meet people. Harry Gant from NYPD.
Yes, yeah.
Like,
it's crazy. Yeah.
So what happened was, I remember this was an Elite 8. I don't know what year it was, but there's a backstage video of NYPD, and it's a very young Harry Gant. I don't know what he's saying. Do you remember that?
I don't. Yeah, it's when they went to Elite 8. It's like the intro video that Hajjot had, like
2012 NYPD, the legendary performance.
When Harry didn't have a beard.
Yeah. And then like, I don't know, just you know, accent. Yeah, honestly.
Yo, what do you say, bro?
And
still.
And so Sydney totally couldn't come to WBBC, so we organized some person we knew. We didn't really know him, but
it was like through
other people, right?
Yeah, like some of our cousins from overseas, like another, like, you know, it's like their family friend or something.
We don't know, right? So he came from Toronto, and he said, "Oh, is it okay if my mate comes along?" We're like, "Yeah, whatever." And so he came along, and then that mate was Harry Gant.
Yeah.
So like the night before, or like 2 nights before the competition, WBBC. Like he basically was like the coach, right? Like, yo, shoulders, arms straight, guys, pop this out. Another run through, do
this, do
segment
that.
run throughs, all of that, right? We're like, oh, okay.
He made us get our shit together, and he kind of like showed us like, all right, like you guys are doing well, but it's not enough. This is what you really need to do.
Yeah.
And then that's like, you know, when suddenly the doors were open for us, like in one way or another, it's like, oh crap, like this is someone who's done it, and he's telling us we need to do way more. So all right, we got to get our shit together.
And then from there, you know, that's when we met him, and he basically ended up coming down for Bruin. He trained with us for like 3 weeks, and then he performed. And I think till this day, people still love his Jummer,
man. I mean,
I remember Gobind and I had like and Tanu as well. We had a very long discussion about it, leading up to. This was before Harry Gant got here. This is when we were remaking a Jummer segment for Bruin. It was like, hey, like, you know, Harry's coming in, right? So, you know, we don't want to just have him as one dancer and fill in, because he's a gun dancer. So like we're like, all right, like what's his best segment? Watched all his videos. All right, he rips Jummer. All right, let's put him at the front, dead center for Jummer. And he absolutely went in on that. So mad props to it.
When he first came, so he came to the practice. He's like, he took Gobind to the side, and he's like, yeah, I don't think I can do this performance.
So like, he hadn't performed in like he hadn't performed in quite some, I don't know, like a couple of months.
I don't know. And then he was like, oh, bro, listen, I can't do this. I'll support you guys and everything. And we're like,
it's like, no, like you come all this way. Like,
like, bro, you might as well, right?
Yeah. Like, it's like, no, you have to do it now.
And I don't know, like, so he ended up doing it, right?
Yeah.
And
he finessed it. He built up his stamina. He learned all the choreo, all the formations, everything.
Yeah. And like, he stayed at at Marvy's house.
At Marvy's house, yeah.
Yeah. And like, I think they spent some time sort of, and even when Marvy was a uni and stuff, Harry Gant practiced at home and everything. So his Jummer still remembered.
Yeah. Dude, funny thing about Harry, actually. So for Dealer at BBC 2016, Harry was supposed to actually dance with us for that comp, and he kind of was like, he came in and he was like, he came to one practice, he's like, yo, I can't do this anymore. And he's like, I'm done, bro, I'm done. I'm like, I'm out. He's so
like, even here and there, like when I talk to him, like, you know, on WhatsApp and stuff, he's like, bro, our team gonna put you on, they're gonna put you, bro, I'm done. Like, you know, I'm too old for this stuff, man. Like, I can't do Bruin again, man. That was too tough for me. Like that ramp, like he ripped it in the end, but he's like that ramp up process to like, you know, that initial like blood, sweat and tears. Like it's just.
Dude, it takes a toll on your body, man. It takes a toll on your body. Like I'm getting to that point. It takes a toll on your body.
Like in such a short, especially for him, like in such a short time frame, doing that so quickly, like, you know, you're massively prone to injuries, and it's a massive mental game as well. Trying to you know, do it. Build up your stamina, learn a whole new routine with 16 people as well. It's
formations and everything.
Yeah, and it's tough as it was for like even us doing like our first 16-man set. So
and
so we talked a lot about like 2016, 2019 and everything. What's next for you guys? I mean, you've already won champs, but is there any plans in the future, any big plans in the future that you want people to know about?
I guess right now, hopefully like when lockdown is lifted, we definitely want to put a bit more focus into our like establishing our academy more. Try to make it, I guess, like a properly well-oiled machine. Like as I said, right now it's kind of in its infancy where we have a couple of classes. They run year round. We run them in different blocks and so on with different age groups and ability levels. But we want to try to, I guess, have something that's a bit more concrete. And I guess hopefully try to get more people in our circuit involved in Bhangra. So especially because we haven't had any competitions this year in Australia. Like we didn't have Bhangra Down Under happen. It's not happening this year, from my knowledge. And Harbour City Bhangra is postponed as well. So
COVID situation.
Yeah, and I think in general, like we haven't had in the past like 2-3 years, we haven't had even 2 competitions happening every year. It's been like some years we have 2, some years we only have 1 competition. So I guess that also kind of like plays a part in the allure that the allure to like going overseas to compete in North America for us, where it's competitions almost happening year round. And it's a bit more flexible in terms of like the time frame for us, where we can really just batten down the hatches and really just work on a routine and a set. And then once the set and the boys are ready, then we can decide a competition, rather than having to, really, push for time and try to rush making a set. So I think for right now, the boys, we're really just focusing on what our next routine will be. We're going to make it slowly. We're going to make it properly as well. So not going to rush it, but definitely alongside the academy, we're currently preparing our next generation of dancers for the bass boys. And yeah, the other teams in the overall bass family, they're also preparing their stuff as well. So I think, you guys can expect definitely to see us competing in 2021. And hopefully, touch wood, maybe we can come back overseas sometime in the near future too. So, but hopefully lockdown finishes soon so we can get back to
I want to be able to see, I honestly want to see another one of those shit segments that you guys had from champs, dude. That hands down, that hands down my favorite shit segment, like almost of all time. I'm pretty sure it's up there. It was amazing to watch.
My favorite humor is probably like just for us. Probably Bruin. Simple, but it was really good.
So when teams use that song, right? We like, I'll call them out. I'll be like, you can't use that song, man. Like, what was it? The Puppy Hill song?
Funny story. There's a team. This is when we were, and it was really weird in the moment because at Champs, when we were side stage, or I guess there wasn't really a side stage at Champs. It was more like when we're at the back of the arena. The team that competed before us, I can't remember their name, so my apologies, but I remember we were standing there, we were getting ready, like, all right, boys, zone in, let's do our chant, let's get ready. And then we suddenly hear our Bruin mix, and it's the Bruin Tumor, not even the song, like our actual mix. And I'm like, wait, what? Wait, what is this? So, I think for us, it's more like we're not really in the mindset of too much calling out people, but I guess for us, it's kind of like it's a kind of a compliment in a way.
Yeah.
When we see teams like
don't take it seriously.
It's kind of like the same thing as like Nutchty. Like if you use amplifier in your set, bro, everyone's gonna compare you to Nutchty from like Elite 8. Like there's like no doubt about it. I think the same thing. And when you can have that type of moment in your set, that takes you from being a good team to being one of the best. That's how I always think about it.
We try to have that, hopefully a couple of times, but we at least like once or twice in every new routine that we have, like, hey, this is like a new song, new bodily or whatever that is kind of low key, it's underground, that people are not really using, but it's a banger track. So let's try to like really own it and make it our own. So yeah, I definitely agree. That's something.
There's one thing I had on here actually. We did a mailbag about a couple weeks ago, depending on when this podcast is released. So we did a mailbag, and one of the questions that we got was, what are the keys to successful team chemistry? So Umar and I respond to that, and whenever we bring a team on that's successful, we like to ask that question because that's something that anyone can have a different answer because all teams are different. So if you guys had to answer that question, the keys to successful team chemistry, how would you answer that?
There's that sort of while you're at practice and everything, right? There's the sort of professionalism kind of side to it, right? But I think you also probably need to be friends. You definitely need to be friends.
I think that's a big part for our team. That's why I think our team has been like, as strong as it is, like staying together for such a time, is because, outside of Bhangra, like, I mean, even before Bhangra, all of us are friends. Like really close friends. So like Bhangra is just like, an excuse for us to really meet up, I guess. So I think a massive thing is you have to be good friends. Or like, yes, our practices, you should be professional. Like we kind of treat it like a sport at practice. We try to. We go through a lot of ups and downs when it comes to
that. I mean, there's been times where it's like, you know, whoever the captain is at the time shouting at everyone, you guys get your shit together, you know. Then it's like
for the boys, but
there's long discussions. There's proper meetings just for, are we gonna do this gimmick or not? Why shouldn't we do it? And like heated discussions, especially our Bruin. And things. There's all of that, and I think you need to be able to have those discussions. So probably openness, honesty with each other,
and trust. Trust is the biggest thing.
Yeah. So that, you know, I mean, work team, sports team, Bhangra team, doesn't matter, right?
Same with your family as well.
Same with your family, right? Any kind of social setup, trust is a big thing, because
you have to have that belief that, you know, hey, if I give this guy this task, like, you know, he's, you know, I believe that he's got the capability to do it, and that he's also, you know, going to get it done, and I don't have to micromanage people in the team as well. Especially like when it comes from like, you know, people like the older boys, the seniors in the team, or like leadership and so on, where, you know, hey, you can't do everything on your own, so it's like you have to be able to lean on each other.
Because like
in a lot of aspects,
the team trusting the captain trusting the team. If someone's in sort of like a key sort of position, like a double standing or something, right? Like you trust them that they'll get it right. You know, they'll practice outside of practice if need be, and they'll do it right. So just those sort of things.
Because I think like, you know, like
having fun.
Having fun is a massive thing as well. Like, that kind of ties in. Like, yes, we try to be as professional as we can at practice, but we also do realize that, you know, we're a team full of, like, for us especially, like, you know, we're a boys team, so we need to have like that. It's where we can really just like, you know, let loose and
And one more thing. I think if you, as a team, if you look at it bigger than yourself individually, and also bigger than your team, right? Like this, you know, you'll meet new people. You're doing it for not just yourself, right? There's a lot of people that are going to watch you. Maybe a kid that's in the audience that's not even you don't know them, they don't know you, but they might get inspired, right? So there's a lot of sort of that peripheral kind of impact that you're also having. So
and especially for us as well, like, you know, being like one of the Australian teams that does tend to go overseas like often. Like it's very apparent, like it's very obvious in our minds that, hey, there's a lot of people watching us. So for us, like if we compete, it's not just, hey, we're just going as, you know, baseball is a Bhangra All-Star Sydney, like we're representing like our city and like our country as well. Like all these teams, like here in Australia, it's not just, you know, like they push us really hard as well when we announce that if we go overseas or if we're doing a competition, because, you know,
the support's always good. If Mob went overseas, every team he supported them. If we went, everyone supported us. So in that way, I think as a circuit as well, we're probably quite supportive of each other.
Everyone's very tight knit, and you know, is happy to share knowledge and information, because I guess at the end of the day, you're only as good as your competition. So if your competition gets better, that pushes you to get better as well, and as a result, your circle will obviously become better in its entirety. So but back to the chemistry thing, I think definitely being, you know, aware of your surroundings, the other teams, and like, I guess like knowing that what you're doing is bigger than yourself, so that, you know, you're
gives an extra push.
It gives you an extra push. And I think that and on top of that, I think another big one is a common vision in the team. So you know, yes, you'll have like a couple of leaders in a team that will articulate a vision or like, you know, a roadmap for a team, but having, you know, individual goals and, you know, overall team goals that, you know, can be, you know, put together to create a common vision for the team, so everyone has that common goal to achieve.
And then just like aligning everyone
to the same place. So then that way it's, you know,
it's good leadership.
So then that way it's not like, hey, I want to do this comp, or hey, I want to achieve this. It's like, yo, we're doing this together. So it's you have to make sure you have a well-oiled machine. And as Dhananjay said, like trust is a massive thing. Trust and friendship. Like without those two things, it can get pretty tough.
Because it will get tough, right? Like every team, 3 weeks out, 2 weeks out, the pressure's over here.
Right? When you get to that crunch and that grind stage, it really tests, like it tests friendships quite a lot. It tests, you know, it tests your mental strength to a huge amount. But like at the end of the day, you just have to, like, you know, remember deep down that, all right, I'm doing this for the boys, I'm doing this for my team. Like, you know, we're doing it for each other. So
it's awesome.
Like
So, so yeah, we're kind of running. We're sorry, guys. I had to kind of start wrapping things up. We're running a little bit over time. We're gonna have to do some cuts here. We try to keep. Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. No, this is awesome. I mean, people who are gonna be listening at home, you know, they're gonna be learning. Like the best part about all these is they get to learn from like they don't get to just learn from one team. You know how JVD had that huge impact on you guys, right? After 2015, you know, the whole goal of this podcast is that everybody can have that impact and hear from these different teams and get inspired. And you know, take away some information. So you know, I appreciate you guys coming on here and like taking the time out. Yeah,
thank you. Appreciate it. It's an awesome platform that you have where, you know, people can, you know, just rant and discuss Bhangra as well. Because you know, it's not often that you get to like, you know, speak to someone.
These conversations happen like typically like after the comp when you're with each other, like after the after party, like when you're all in like one hotel room just chilling like at 3 o'clock.
You get very philosophical about
very philosophical. But to have like that's the whole goal of this platform is that we don't need to wait till 3 o'clock after a competition, you know, 3 a.m. at an after party. So I appreciate you guys taking the time out. I know this was actually kind of hard to coordinate. You guys are 14 hours ahead of us. So right now it's 10 p.m. where I am, and it's like 12 p.m. where you guys are a day. 12:30, a day ahead.
Shit. When we go to America, we lose
a day. So
we gain a day.
We gain a day,
And on the way back, there's the whole day missing.
And then the worst part is that's after a comp too.
Exactly. It's like, oh, hey, we're not losing a day. Like we're just in limbo, like, you know, whilst we're in the air. But then on the way back, it's like, oh, you lost a week. It's like coming back, getting used to life.
Like we left, we get to LA, and we're like,
we actually
landed at the same time.
Basically, we landed there before we left in Sydney.
We landed there before we left.
So thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for being on here, and really appreciate it. Yeah, awesome.